My nephew, he's a speedy one, and he's very food motivated. So at the end, like he won. He ended up winning everything, and he became like cruise famous. All the like little kids would be like, "Oh, congratulations!" Like.
Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by We Do Travel Right. And Sam, do your jingle.
Simply the best, better than all the rest. I kind of want to redo that. That one, can we do take two? No, I'm just kidding, but it wasn't
more
a great
than
take.
adequate for our purposes. This week's listener review comes from HDJB. It's maybe high def JB. I don't know. Anyway. HDJB writes, great DCL Duo pod. Look forward to all the great shows each week. Love all the great guests. And Brian, Sam, and Nathan all rock. Keep up the great work and keeping it real. So there you go. Say we're keeping it real.
We're keeping it real. I love that. I love the shout out to Nathan most especially, even though he hasn't been on the show in forever. Because I'll tell people this. I've said this on I think the live show a couple of times. Every time we go on a sailing, we kind of say, hey, Nathan, do you think you want to come on the show? And he's like, maybe. And then we check in with him the day we're recording. And he's like, nah, I'm playing with my friends.
Can't talk, Robloxing. Yeah. Yeah. So
now it's Kerbal Space.
I plan to interview him when we're on the River Cruise, the podcast River Cruise. I plan to get him back on a mic because when he's out and about, he's like a little bit more cool with it than when he's at home. So hopefully we can get him on.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because this episode is going to come out after that River Cruise episode because we'll do probably, right? Yeah.
I don't know. I can't keep it all straight in my head. That's why I have databases. But anyway, let's get on to our guest and our topic, Sam. Actually, I forgot my PSA. Please remember, if you're out there listening, one of the easiest ways to help support the show, head over to Apple Podcasts, hit those 5 stars. If you leave us a written review with your 5-star rating, we will read it on the air at the top of one of our main episodes. And if you happen to be listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, any of the other great platforms on which you can listen to and consume podcasts, whatever rating system they have, whatever recommendations they have, please, like give it all to us. All the hearts, the popcorn boxes, the confetti containers, whatever it is, like give it to us. It helps us reach new people who are interested in Disney Cruise Line but have maybe not yet sailed. So with that, Sam, now over to you to introduce our guest and our topic for today.
Yeah. You know, I love first-timer episodes. It's been, I feel like, too long since we've actually done a first-timer episode. It's definitely been a couple of months since we've interviewed a first-timer. And so I'm super excited to have a first-timer episode for our audience today. Welcome to the show, longtime listener, first-time caller, Soshian. Welcome, Soshian.
Thank you very much, both of you, for having me. Possibly the only person more excited to be here than you is me. So thank you again for having me.
I love it. I love pre-show. You were like, I'm so excited to be here because nobody else wants to listen to me talk about this.
Yeah, exactly. Like my wife was there. Everybody else that kind of hears like 2 words about it. And now finally somebody that's here to listen to me talk about my cruise. No better gift.
Yeah, I want to hear all about it. But before we talk about your first cruise on Disney Cruise Line, we've got to dive back into your Disney history. This is your first cruise ever, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'd never cruised before. Never really had any thought or idea of cruising before until basically probably a year and a half ago when we started planning this trip. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what got you even thinking about, Disney Cruise Line? Are you like a longtime Disney fan? Has Disney been a part of your life for more than just the past year and a half?
So I grew up in California and we lived close to Disneyland. We lived in LA, so we would go there not infrequently. And that was a large part of childhood and such. And then eventually I left California, moved over to Boston. Now was in New York for a while. Now I'm settled in Connecticut. And it was really kind of in 2020 around COVID times where the passion for Disney kind of came back a little bit. I met my wife and then COVID hit. So we had a lot of quarantine time. It clearly went well. But as the time was getting closer and things were kind of opening up a little bit more, we were looking forward to doing a vacation. She had gone to Disney World a bunch as a kid growing up, but I had never gone. And that was something that was fairly open. So we kind of started planning for a trip there. And with that, we effectively just got immersed into the world a lot more. We watched a lot of we got into like vloggers, we read a lot of content, started listening to more stuff just to get excited about the trip. We ran into my sister who was getting married just shortly after we would get back from our trip. And for their honeymoon, they were actually planning a trip to Disney World as well. That kind of blossomed the whole family kind of reuniting aspect of it. We did our trip, had a ton of fun, and then effectively started going back probably annually, roughly. We usually do it as a family trip with my sister and her family that's kind of been growing, and our family that's been going. The few times we didn't go with them were times when we would travel to other places. Like we went to Japan, and of course we went to Japan for our honeymoon, and of course we still did some time at Tokyo Disney and Disney Sea and so forth and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, once you're already there, you have to go, right? It's supposed to be the best of all the Disney parks. So if you're traveling to Japan and you're going to be anywhere near Tokyo, I feel like it's like a must do if you're a Disney fan.
Oh, by far, yeah. Disney Seas was a phenomenal park, is what I'll say. It's the amount of money that was poured into it and the amount of Imagineering and attention to detail and stuff. It blew my mind. Love Disney World. Disney Seas as a single park is probably better than anything else that I'd seen.
We are dying to get there, Soshin. It's not planned yet. It's going to be planned once we know when the OLC ship is coming out, and then we will start planning that Japan trip because we want to do a whole bunch of stuff in Japan. So we may have to take a couple of weeks to go do that. So tell me, where did the cruise come from? Like you started going to Disney every year, but you had never sailed on a cruise. Like where did the interest of, I might want to do a cruise, like where did that come from?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So my wife had cruised a little bit as a teenager, I think on Norwegian and stuff, and she didn't like it as a teenager. She kind of hated it effectively because as a teenager, it was kind of boring. There's not much to do and so forth. It wasn't until my sister ended up booking a cruise with her husband and their little one, who was just about 8 or 9 months at that time, and they went on the Fantasy on a Western Caribbean. And they really, really enjoyed it. I think, honestly, he enjoyed it more than visiting the parks and so forth. She was kind of 50-50, but they effectively suggested it to us. And at first I was like, well, I don't know. I'm a little prone to car sickness and such. I like the parks and stuff, but I was a little worried about getting kind of bored on the ship and so forth. But they were really excited about it, and I'm kind of okay doing new things. So I was like, okay, we planned for a trip. We planned for that trip initially to happen, 2 years ago, a year and a half, probably about a year ago or a year and a half ago. And then my wife, she got pregnant. So we had to delay the cruise because of the 20-week and 6-month type of thing. So then we ended up replanning it at that time. About a year and a half ago for this past June because of the way scheduling worked out and so forth. And then we ended up going on it without any issues or anything of that nature.
I love that. Now, for those who are listening and don't know what Sosha's talking about as far as the timing goes, if you are more than, I believe it's 24 weeks pregnant, you cannot get on any cruise. It's not just Disney Cruise Line. And that's because they're worried about you giving birth on the cruise and they don't have the proper equipment for an infant or a brand new infant, especially a preemie. They don't have the proper equipment in the medical center on board. And then the other issue is your child can't be under 6 months of age for most cruises. So even if you've had the baby needs to be over 6 months. Now, I say for most cruises because there are some cruises that are like transatlantic, Panama Canal, where you're sort of at sea and away from land for longer. And the minimum age is a year old for babies. And so the minimum age for any cruise, at least on Disney Cruise Line, I'm not sure if that's across the industry, is 6 months. And so Soshin, you and your wife then had to wait for your baby. Your baby was like 7 months on this cruise that we're going to talk about. So just past that barrier.
Yep. Effectively, we were looking at different times. My wife's a teacher, so vacation timing is a little bit tricky. So we were playing around with the times. April break was a little too early. It was 5 months or something. So summer break was when it worked out.
Nice, nice. Now, which itinerary did you choose? And you sailed with your sister and her family as well, right? So tell us, like, who's a part of that family?
So we sailed, it was me, my wife, and our little one, and then my sister, who has two little ones, and her husband, a 3 year old and a 1 year old. We ended up doing, so they had done the Western Caribbean on the Fantasy, and we ended up doing the Eastern Caribbean on the Treasure. Because we're big parks people, and it was a bigger ship, and they kind of wanted to try that experience, which was fun.
Any hesitation about doing a 7 night cruise as your first cruise, in particular, as someone who has, some car sickness, some motion sickness that you've dealt with in the past?
In hindsight, probably, but at the time of booking, like we do all our trips, we take off a week. It doesn't feel like a vacation if it's like too short, because then you're worried you're just getting used to it, and then it's almost time to leave vacation. So I planned for a full like 7 week type of vacation, and my sister actually brought a ton of medicines because she wanted me to have a really good experience. So we had available like every form of patch, every form of like pill, every form. I had like ginger tablets, every band, and so forth to make sure that I wouldn't get sick. I was actually eventually getting more nervous that I would get sick from like medicine rather than the actual sea sickness. But
Yeah, you might like take too many different medications, like mix too many medications. Check all the labels before mixing medications, people. Not all, and
Or
some of the
before taking a bunch of Dramamine and having like too many drinks.
cocktails, exactly, absolutely, yeah. Those, yeah. Don't mix Dramamine in cocktails, for sure. Especially not the regular version of Dramamine. But Soshin, tell us like what kind of planning went in advance of this cruise. Now, your sister was the expert, having been on one cruise. You're the newbie. Did you start listening like to our show before your cruise? Like, what kind of things did you do to kind of familiarize yourself? I mean, some people don't. Some people like to go in blind, and just kind of go with the flow, and other people are type A planners. Which one are you, Soshin?
I like to get an idea of what's going on. Yeah. So my sister and wife are a little bit more like very like having a structure and more of the planning type. But I definitely like to go in with a lot of knowledge base. So I started listening actually in anticipation of the first cruise we booked. I started listening to you guys as pretty much the biggest content that I kind of consume. We watch like videos and stuff like that. And that got me more and more excited and more hooked on something that I hadn't done yet, which was good, I guess. So, and that actually reassured me a lot as well. Because again, the other thing I was a little nervous was about it was just getting bored on the cruise. And it sounded like there was a lot of things to do. So I did a lot of that. After a bit of time, I probably consumed more content than the rest of the families combined in terms of listening to you guys and just watching stuff in just terms of excitement. So it went from them being the expert to like me being the non-cruiser who probably knew more random facts and things like that than anybody else.
I love that, by the way. Like that's awesome.
I'm a repository for random Disney Cruise Line facts. Sam, much more so. I don't tend to focus on the details as much as Sam does. She knows all the restaurant names, everything, and I'm constantly like, "What was the name of that restaurant on which ship?"
Yeah, or he'll ask me which show is on which ship, and it might take me a second because I have to think about it so I don't confuse them. But like,
But I talk people's ears off about Monica Blue all the time. So
yes, I will say, like, when people ask me like what's the Stern character on the ship, that's the one thing I can't keep straight for all of. I know most of them, but I can't keep them all straight. But yes, I am a repository for probably useless Disney Cruise Line facts, but not useless because we have this podcast, right?
And I was going to say useful in many other ways, like on the cruise, there's like the trivias and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, what kind of stuff did you plan in advance? Like you were going on Eastern Caribbean, so we're talking Tortola, St. Thomas, and Castaway. Assuming you were on the regular sort of Eastern itinerary, not one of the other Eastern itineraries. But did you plan, excursions? Were you trying for like a Palo brunch or a Palo dinner or Enchante perhaps, on the Disney Treasure?
So we played around a lot with some different things. I think what we really wanted to do was try to do a Palo brunch, and then my wife and I kind of enjoy like the like tasting menus and fine dining and so forth. So we were kind of excited to try Ashante if it worked out on a day where we weren't missing like a fun main dining or something of that nature. My sister had done, I think, a mojito tasting on the Fantasy, and they had a ton of fun with that. So we wanted to try to book maybe one tasting as a group or something of that nature. And we did We used a travel agent that kind of helped with the booking, but in terms of booking individual things, we kind of just woke up at midnight and kind of did all that, which was a lot of fun. We ended up booking before the cruise. My sister was silver, so she got Apollo brunch, I think, on day 2, and they got, I think, like a chocolate and liqueur tasting. And then by the time we got there, we were able to book the Ashante dinners. All the dinners were available, but all the brunches were gone. And pretty much all the tastings were booked out at that time. In terms of excursions, my sister was contemplating doing an excursion to like a beach, I think on St. Thomas or Tortola. I think they ended up just getting a cab and going to a beach on Tortola and kind of hoping for the best and making it back safely. So we ended up not planning any excursions, mostly because we weren't sure like the options with the 7-month-old, and just kind of easier being close by in case, she started crying or got fussy or something of that nature.
Yeah. Did you book time in the nursery in advance, or did you wait to do that on the ship? I know you can book some hours. I don't remember the exact number, but I do know they let you book some hours. And for those who don't know anything about the nursery is for ages 0 or really 6 months to 3 years old, and that is really anyone who's in diapers typically. If your child is 3 and is out of diapers, they can go into the regular kids club. But you do pay a fee, but it's cheaper than any babysitter I've ever heard of in the world. So it's totally well worth it. But you can book some hours ahead of time. Were you able to book some?
Yeah, so we booked some hours ahead of time. We were fairly confident about the Ashante, so we booked that. We were going to try to get ourselves added on to the Palo Brunch, so we booked that just in case. And then we booked, I think those were the main times we initially booked. And it was like dirt cheap, relatively speaking, for like daycare prices, as you were saying. I think it was like $10 an hour or something of that nature. And I think we could book like something like 10 or so hours or before. Once we were on the cruise, we did get some other stuff, and we added on a ton more time with the nursery. The nursery people were just phenomenal people, very nice, very caring, very like detail oriented, just a wonderful crowd to work with. So we ended up adding on some of the evening times that overlapped with some of the bigger shows, and some of the other times that overlapped with like any tastings and stuff that we ended up getting.
That's a great planning on your part, especially on the Palo Brunch. So this is a really good first timer tip. If you're sailing with friends who are able to get a Palo Brunch and you're not able to get a Palo Brunch, you have a decent chance of being added onto their Palo Brunch once you get on the ship, because most of the tables, especially on the newer ships, are 4 tops. Most of them are not 2 tops. And so you are likely to be able to get added on to their brunch reservation. And so if you plan as if you're going to do that, I mean, worst case scenario, you can cancel the hours at the nursery later, right? If you aren't able to get added, but better to have them and then cancel them than to not have them at all. So excellent planning, Soshian. I have to give you like a round of applause for that.
And I'll give you the round of applause because I picked that up from, I'm pretty sure you guys, hearing it on some of your podcasts, hearing some of the people going like, yeah, we tried, and hearing probably those exact same words before. So I'll say excellent tips.
Well, thank you. I'll give myself a little pat on the back there. I'll give Brian a virtual pat on the back since we record in separate rooms. No, I love that. I think it's really smart planning. And I love that, of course, across a 7-night cruise, the 10 hours or whatever you can book at the beginning is not a whole lot. And so it does make sense. Like once you're on board, that you'll be able to and want to probably book more time. I think it's smart also to book, those show times as well, because, a 7-month-old probably not going to be the best experience to be holding them in the middle of an hour-long show.
Yeah, and we were early dinner and late show, and it was way past it would be her bedtime effectively. So it kind of worked out in that respect. I guess I can go into it later too, but we did take her to some of the afternoon shows, and she tolerated one. She tolerated one far better than the other. She really liked Beauty and the Beast, is what I'll say. She was not as big into Moana.
She- That's hilarious. She didn't like Warrior Face in Moana. That was the issue. But she loved all of the set changes and all of the everything that was happening in Beauty and the Beast. She has excellent taste. I love that. Well, let's talk about embarkation or traveling down to Port Canaveral and then embarkation day. You're coming from Connecticut, so I'm imagining you're traveling down at least the day before because friends don't let friends fly in on embarkation day, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. So we flew down. So we there's like a small like little airport in New Haven that we're close to that basically flies one airline to like, and 90% of their flights are basically to Florida. So we booked with them, and it's kind of like a budgety kind of 50-50 you'll arrive on time type of plane flight. So we booked it early the day before. And we made it safely. It was not a problem. We stayed, and similar to my sister, they booked in, flew in they're from Rhode Island, so they flew in without issue too. To make it simple, we actually stayed on Disney property and took a bus, the Disney Cruise Line bus in, which was kind of fun. They gave us like a fun little magnet, and the day before we stayed, I think it was Port Orleans French Quarters, which was a lot of fun, and got to see, I think, that evening Yeehaw Bob, which was quite a spectacle. It was probably the greatest thing I had seen in Disney from that perspective.
Oh, I love that.
I don't want to spoil.
I've heard of him, but I have not seen him.
And I won't go on the tangent of him, but I'd say I had heard of him. I went in just by myself, and he was quite the entertainer.
I love it. Now, did you bring a car seat with you in case you were going to do taxis? I mean, you have an infant that you're traveling with, so it's a little bit different than like traveling with a toddler. I know a lot of people book Disney transportation so they don't have to worry about bringing a car seat. But when you've got an infant, they're in that bucket thing, the bucket car seat that you use as a carrier. It also might click into a stroller, right? Like it's kind of a multi-use device that I remember when Nathan was little, we brought that thing with us everywhere. Did you guys bring that with you?
We contemplated it, but we ended up, in the past we had for this trip, we decided to leave that behind, and we went without a stroller because she mostly likes being held. So we have like this little strap thingy that we used a lot, and we held her on the airplane with the Disney cruise like bus and so forth. You didn't need it. So we figured it would probably just be a lot easier not having to lug that along with like the two massive luggages, diapers and stuff like that she had. My sister also didn't bring any car seats, but they did bring a stroller.
Yeah, well, and they've got two, and ages 3 and 1, a little bit different because the 1-year-old you can carry, but 3-year-olds are real heavy. It's carrying them is not the same. But those like ergo carriers, I remember I used to have one of those, and I thought that was excellent. That was really great for just walking around. It was much easier than a stroller was in sort of navigating spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of enjoyed the aspect of holding her and walking around. I'm a big walker and so forth. So I enjoyed the aspect of holding her. And we used it throughout the cruise, walking around in circles. It would help her fall asleep. And it was a ton of fun. The crew members start to kind of recognize you as like the one with the little kid who was always walking around in circles. So they come by and have fun. But it worked out really well not having a car seat in stroller.
Awesome. Now, you have to bring a lot of stuff when you are traveling with an infant. Like what are like the main things that you're like, okay, we have to bring this with us? Obviously diapers, but what are the sort of the other things that you're like, I've got to bring all this stuff, especially for a 7-night cruise? That's a lot of stuff, I'm imagining.
So we brought a ton of diapers. She's mostly formula. So we brought a bunch of formula. We brought we have like a locked and loaded diaper bag type of, or like all utility bag so we brought 3 or 4 bottles. Because we'd have them with us, and when we were out, she'd eat every couple hours. We brought I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's like a shusher type of device, a noise-making equivalent, to help her in terms of sleeping.
Yeah, a sleep noise machine. Yeah, I will tell you, we sleep with like white noise machine, basically.
Oh man, yeah, it was great. So we were all in one cabin room, and it helped us fall asleep too. It worked out really nicely. We brought some toys, a couple of different things in that respect. We brought her spoon because she's just entering eating age. So she has like a little spoon and bib and stuff like that to kind of help out.
Now,
DCL.
What about clothes? Did you babies that age go through way more clothes than like toddlers do, right? Because they might have a blowout, they may spit up, right? Like especially when you're first introducing food, it's totally a mess. Like, did you bring a lot of extra clothes? Did you plan on doing laundry on board?
Oh, we brought laundry. We planned on doing laundry, and we ended up doing laundry like 3 times or something between all of us. So, and given that we packed, like my wife and I packed less clothes, effectively to make more room for her clothes. We packed her like 2 or 3 sets of different outfits, not just because she needed it, but because there's like the mini outfit, and then there's like the Pluto outfit, and there's like the princess outfits. So those took up like a bunch of space as well.
I love that. For those not watching on YouTube, like I've got Brian and I both have like grins ear to ear because we're like imagining the 7-month-old in all these different outfits.
Yeah, and it was fun. Yeah, we tried to plan it with character meet and greets, and yeah, and I like to think that she enjoyed it. She didn't voice any concern.
She didn't object. I love it. All right, well, let's talk about, okay, so you're up early, Port Orleans, you are on the bus, headed to Port Canaveral. What did you think? Your first time seeing the ship, you hadn't seen a ship in person, even though you'd seen a bunch of videos. Like, was it what you thought it would look like?
It was fascinating. One thing I will say is for the bus, I guess we were supposed to go and check in, and we didn't realize this at all, and everybody else was there. So they called us and were like, "Where are you?" Basically, and that was one thing that I didn't realize beforehand that I wanted to mention, just because it caught us really off guard. Seeing the ship was it was spectacular. It was just so big, and so it was very magical. And we were in a bus full of people who were also really excited, obviously because they were staying at Disney and taking the cruise line bus. So there was just a lot of oohs and ahs and photo taking. I lucked out. I was on the side of the bus that was closer to the ship, so I got a couple of pictures there. And getting off and all that stuff, they were very efficient, which was nice. I enjoyed kind of the efficiency, and that was one of the appeals of cruise. Cruise ships are really, really efficient in terms of waste management, food management, and all that. But once we got off, they took us in. It was just like going to Disney World. You stood in a line until you got to another line, and then you got into another line, and then we were ready to kind of prepare for boarding. But security, all of that, everything was very smooth. And once we were in there, we kind of perused the app throughout the time waiting up to it. In there, we actually were able to book a few more things that we hadn't been able to book before. We booked like some tastings. We booked a tour of the ship type of thing, like one of those hour tours. And we booked, I think, Royal Gathering for both our side of the family and their side of the family.
Oh, that's awesome. And because you were linked, you're able to book for the others in your party. If you're not linked, you don't have your reservations linked, you're only able to book for your own cabin. But once you're linked and once you've passed sort of whatever that deadline is, right, for first time cruisers, then you can, book whatever for the entire party. And I love that you're smart looking at the app right when you're in the port. You look at the app, and if there are things you weren't able to book before, definitely check, because they open up additional spots that they don't have available for pre-booking. So Royal Gathering is one, some of the drink tastings. There might even be some adult dining reservations available. And then, of course, the Imagineering the ship tour or Art of the Theme ship tour on the older ships, that's only available once you get on the ship Wi-Fi. You can't book that in advance. I mean, you're booking it in advance, but not in advance of the cruise. You can book it on the first day of the cruise, essentially, for one of the other days. So yeah, very good work, Soshian. Good job listening to all of our tips and tricks. I'm going to give the tip and trick for the bus. You want to be on the driver's side of the bus if you want to see out the window and have the first glimpse of the ship when you're coming across the causeway.
So specific. Oh my gosh. That is talk about very minutia Disney Cruise Line facts. Driver's side of the bus. Yeah.
Driver's side. If you're taking Disney Cruise Line transportation.
But if you're on the driver's side of the bus as you go over the causeway, you're not going to get the full view of the ship, right?
No, you will
when they turn onto the
when
bridge,
they turn into the terminal, yeah, the other side of the bus will get a slightly, well, it just depends, but slightly better view. But you'll get, if you want the first view of the ship, you want to be on the driver's side of the bus.
But Sam, what movies are playing on the bus?
I don't know.
What's the show schedule, Sam? There you go.
Right.
The ship is a little bit better of a movie than anything they played on the bus.
There you go.
There you go. Sometimes they're just playing ads on the bus, too. Sometimes they're not actually playing a movie. Well, okay. Well, Soshian, let's talk. So it sounds like it was pretty smooth sailing as far as check-in goes. You walk across that gangway. into the atrium of the beautiful Disney treasure that is decorated like Agrabah from Aladdin. What was that first moment like for you, for your wife, for the rest of the family? Because they hadn't been on the treasure; they had been on one of the older ships.
Yeah, correct. They had been on the fantasy, so it was for me. It was just amazing because before getting on, it was almost kind of like boarding an airplane. And except once you get in, it's completely different. It's just massive. There's a lot of people. They announce your name, as you everybody knows, but they announce your name, and everyone kind of claps. And yeah, the grand hall was very spectacular. It was huge. The artwork was just phenomenal. It was very, very fun. I think my sister liked it a little bit more than the fantasies because she described it as bigger and a little more grand. But and the other aspect of it is now you're like, it's kind of like the first step to vacation, right? When you're waiting in line, it's not that fun and stuff. But now you're like, we were finally on the ship and ready to go, which was a lot of fun.
I love it. What was your first plan of action after you are amazed, of course, by the Grand Hall, and then you decide, okay, where am I going? Am I going to Marceline? Am I going to the pool deck? Am I going to Triton's to deal with the Palo reservation? Like, what was your plan of attack?
It was basically go to Triton's and guest services equivalent to figure out all the stuff that we hadn't figured out. I think I'd learned here that it was always Triton's for the Palo, like dining stuff. We went upstairs. I think it was the fourth floor where there was guest services, and there wording of the sign was very confusing. It basically said dining and then a bunch of little words. So I was like, "Oh crap! Pardon me, sorry. My mistake. It must be here instead." So I got in line there, and my wife went up to Triton's, and she fixed all our. So we got added on to Palo Brunch, and that went very well. We ended up going to the guest services to see if we could get added on to my sister's tasting, but we couldn't do that. My wife had booked a gin tasting for one, and they did let me add on to that as well. So we got all of that stuff sorted out. Then we went to the nursery to basically finalize all the times that we now knew that we needed more of. And when we were there, that's when we also were like, okay, well, these show times are probably going to book up fast and stuff like that. So we booked those as well. And then finally, after that, we ended up doing the sit down lunch because yeah, buffets are fun and so forth. I think my sister and her husband had said it was kind of like the Wild Wild West when they did it the first time they were there.
That's a great description, especially if it's later. Like if you're there right when it opens, it's a little calmer. But if you're there, I don't know, 1-2 o'clock, it's the Wild Wild West. I agree.
Yeah. So we ended up doing the sit down, which was a lot of fun. It was in Coco, so the theming was kind of fun and nice. And it was mildly hectic, but still very, very well, like much calmer is what I would say, much calmer. And the food was good. So we got a lot of we tried a couple of the different things. I think they have beef empanada. I think I got like a salmon salad or something of that nature, which I enjoyed a lot. And then the desserts were, I think it was like a cookies and cream like cheesecake thing, which was like, it wasn't the greatest thing. It wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't the greatest thing on the cruise is what I'll say, but it wasn't the worst thing.
Yeah, because it's not the original Oreo cheesecake. It's the imitation version that they have on the Wish class that is just it's not good. It's not bad. It's just not good. I want to point out another thing that you mentioned you did though, which is going to the nursery and booking those additional times. I think that's also really smart strategy for two reasons. One, it does take some time to sign up your kid or to finalize all the registration at the nursery. It takes longer there than for the kids club because there's a lot of information in the intake because they want to make sure they understand the feeding needs, the diapering needs, does your kid have any, allergies, sensitivities? There's a whole bunch of, information that they do at that intake that's much more extensive than with the older kids. And then also prioritizing getting those additional times. As you mentioned, the shows are going to be the times that are probably the most desirable because most cruisers who have children of your child's age or under 3 are going to want those times. And so going there early on the cruise, you're going to have a better chance of being able to secure those times than if you wait until, let's say, day 2 or day 3 or even just later on day 1. So really, really smart.
Yeah, it took our luggage once we got all that settled, it took our luggage a bit of time our room was ready fairly quickly, it felt, but it took our luggage a bit of time to get there. I think it wasn't until after dinner. I think it was still before the show, but so that still worked out well. They had a pack and play and stuff like that ready in the room for us. They had a diaper genie. So while I went to do all the nursery stuff. Our little one and my wife stayed and they took a nap. The paperwork was very extensive, and it was kind of nice and reassuring in one sense. The registration was a bunch of paperwork, and then every time you went back to drop off, you had to go through and say, like, this is what she has, this is like what temperature she likes the bottle at, if there's a specific time you want to give it. They were very, very specific, which was nice. We were fairly lax, but it was nice for others.
That is really nice. We've heard that from other folks too, and I love that. I think it's great to mention that that you mentioned that your luggage came later, because it is important to make sure you've got enough diapers, for example, enough of whatever you're going to need, because you might not get your luggage. And we try to remind people, like, Disney is often very good at getting your luggage there earlier, but once in a while it does take longer, and it might not get there until after, first seating of dinner, or in between the dinner and the show if you're doing first seating of dinner. And so it's one of those things to just be aware of, like, make sure you have all of your essentials on you, medications, diapering needs. If you are specific about what you want to wear to dinner that first night in your sit down restaurant, rotational dining, like if I'm like, I want to wear my Lion King shirt at Pride Lands, and I happen to be eating at Pride Lands on that first, or not Pride Lands, sorry, Coco, that first night, then I've got to make sure I've got that packed in my carry-on, unless I want to, switch it up to a different day. So yeah, super, super good tips.
If you're listening to us right now, chances are pretty good that you love Disney vacations as much as we do. But even seasoned travelers know there's a ton to keep up with when it comes to Disney Cruise Line. From cruise itineraries to the perfect stateroom for your family, shore excursions, and onboard experiences. And if you're planning to visit the Disney parks before or after your cruise, then there's even more to plan, from the perfect resort to lightning lane strategies, dining reservations, park tickets, special offers, and much, much more.
That's where We Do Travel Right comes in. Their team of experienced travel advisors specializes in Disney Cruise Line, Disney parks, and other exciting places all around the world. They take the time to understand what matters most to your family, providing personalized recommendations and helping you navigate all the details so you can spend less time stressing and more time looking forward to your vacation. Whether it's your first Disney cruise or your 10th, having an expert in your corner can make all the difference.
Life is short. Take the trip. Visit WeDoTravelRight.com/DCLDuo to connect with a travel advisor and start planning your next unforgettable adventure.
We Do Travel Right, the crew that handles the planning so you can focus on relaxing.
Let's dive into some of the stuff you guys ended up doing. It seems like you did a lot.
So I was very fortunate. So I'm I enjoy doing stuff. I'm very active, and frankly, I get bored if I'm sitting at home for too long and so forth. So I'm very active. My wife enjoys more quiet time and so forth. So it kind of worked out well, because she would kind of relax in the room sometimes with the little one, or go do something. We had a veranda room, mostly because I was nervous about seasickness, and plus, it was kind of pleasant to have it. So I was able to kind of go and do a lot of different activities, and especially the nighttime activities. The days when we had nursery, we ended up kind of both doing it, but I was able to kind of hit up a lot of the different spots, and it was just a ton of fun. In terms of stuff that I really enjoyed, so we did a couple trivias together. That was a lot of fun. My wife's very big music buff person, so we did like 2000 music trivia. She really heard that, which was like they'd play like little jingles from either music or from like ads or from movies, and then somebody representing your side would go up and kind of try to buzz in to get it, and it kind of rotated through. So that was fun. I went to Who's Your Mate? That was a lot of fun. That was quite fun. And then I went to a lot of the live music that was kind of going on in the evening hours, when my wife, my sister's family, all of them would be kind of more sleepy and tired. I would go and listen to music. So I listened to a lot of the doublooners. I think they were at Skipper Society. I tried out all the like different spots. And Scat Cat had a really good pianist who was singing along, and I think his name was Julian, and I think it was his last cruise. So he was really enjoying it. He was, as he would describe himself, very unhinged, which was a lot of fun.
Unhinged. I like that a piano player describes themselves as unhinged. That's hilarious. Did you end up getting to go to the Indiana Jones Choose Wisely adult only show? I know obviously it sounds like you got to do actually quite a few of the adult only activities because your wife was okay going to bed early.
It worked out. So they actually that one, my wife and my sister, we left brother-in-law in charge of all three kids. They were sleeping, so it was okay. But he was in charge, and he was tired, so it kind of worked out well. All three of us went to the Indiana Jones Choose Your Own Adventure, which was a lot of fun. Sage and Coriander did a really, really good job, and the adult entertainment guy, his name was Frank. He went by Frankie. He was really good in terms of just like with the props. They have very minimal props and basically just utilizing lighting and shadows and stuff. They made it very fun, and it was great. It was good.
I love that. I think that it's a great show. It's such a really well done, and like you said, simple props, lighting, a flip board. Like it's really incredible how they do that. Yeah.
And I had never, I've seen like bits and pieces of some of the Indiana Jones, but I wasn't like too familiar with it and so forth. And I still enjoyed it a ton.
Awesome. I love so you can be a non-Indiana Jones fan and still enjoy it. That makes sense. What about some of like the family activities? What did you all do on the ship as a family that you enjoyed?
We did some of the royal gatherings and meet and greets. That was kind of fun. And that was just fun kind of seeing the kids get pictures with all those. Most of our family time together would be either poolside like funnel vision or kind of like splash pad, or we did dining and like kind of some of those shows. Our adult time was at Palo Brunch, and then the evenings would be with like the dinners with the kids and everything else, which was a little bit more like energetic with like a toddler and two kids and stuff. Otherwise, we would like my wife and I would go do some stuff. My sister's family would go do some stuff. We'd intervene here and there. We had no problems kind of like splitting up as we needed to, depending on people's needs.
And that's the nice thing about cruising. You can kind of, as we like to say, sort of choose your own adventure, right? Like I don't have to do everything with Brian. He doesn't have to do everything with me. We don't have to do everything with Nathan. We'll come together for certain activities. And of course we come together for dinner in main dining. And so that part is, really fun. And that's your sort of check-in for the day. So it's a really nice way to cruise. I'm curious, did your little one, did she like being at the nursery? Did she like the character meet and greets? Like, it's hard. I mean, she's only 7 months, but like, I know she's not going to remember any of this, but like, did it feel like it was a good experience for her? And was it stressful for you and your wife traveling with a child so young?
Not at all. So she is at the stage where she kind of smiles and stuff. So she did a lot of smiling. And the meet and greets, like most of them that we did were princesses, and they did a good job kind of engaging her, and she could recognize the faces and smile, and they did a good job kind of playing around with her. At the nurseries, it was very similar. She got along well with all the people, and the people there were really, really kind. I think maybe by sheer like just coincidence, almost everybody there was from the UK in some way or form. So they were like they spoke very good English, and not that everybody on the ship spoke great English and stuff, but by sheer like coincidence, it just happened that they were all from the UK, which is, I guess, in hindsight, kind of weird. But everybody,
they're Mary Poppins, basically.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Everybody was really kind to her, and it was the first time we dropped her off. We were a little nervous because sometimes we would get the alert, like she's a little upset, but we're calming her down. It's okay. But effectively, the only time I think we had to call down was once. And I think she was just a little bit fussy. I think they wanted to know if they could give her bottle early or something of that nature. And we were like, yeah, that's fine. Nursery worked out well for both mine and my sister's 1-year-old. The 3-year-old, they tried Oceaneers Club, and he did not like Oceaneers Club. The short answer is he was not into it. We got away with it. We tried it on Palo Brunch. Palo Brunch was on day 2, so we did that as a group of 4. So we got away with putting him there and trying it out. We got a lot of alerts. So he made it through the brunch. I think he had a little accident. So they did have. So I think my brother-in-law went and called them, but they were like, he was like, "I'm ready to come down. I can take him and stuff." But they were like, "Oh, we already changed them and stuff like that." So after that, I think that was also part of the reason we never like fully did a bunch of 7 people family things, because they were entertaining the 3-year-old a lot.
3 is a hard age for that, because sometimes they'll have that stranger danger thing. They're not necessarily quite as independent. I mean, even if they are potty trained, they might still have accidents, right? So like it is hard, and they can go to the nursery, but it's not really entertaining for them, right? Like it's not really stimulating. It's more stimulating for the younger, sort of infant or maybe 1 year olds. So yeah, it's hard. And especially in the kids club, there's nobody there who's like, do you need to go potty? Like you're expected to go toilet yourself. And so that can be really hard for like a 3-year-old or even a 4-year-old as well. So
I think
yeah.
that was a lot of it. Yeah, he kind of gets a little bit of, I guess, FOMO in some sense, like fear of missing. Once he's engaged in something, he loses his focus, right? And then if no one's there to remind him, stuff like that can happen. And I think he's a little bit more of a enjoy, like in that not stranger danger per se, but enjoys the family time. I don't want to say clingy, but like just enjoys that family time.
I wonder if we should talk about food next. We haven't gotten there yet. You did, of course, go to sit down lunch on the first day, but I'm curious how dinners went in particular, because dinner can take a little bit longer, and you have a 3-year-old with you, a 1-year-old, a 7-month-old with you, right? So that can be a little tough when you have a longer dinner. How did that go in general, and how did the show aspect go with the little ones as well?
So it went pretty well. So my sister had done the cruise with hers was like 8 or 9 when they did their first cruise, and I think the thing that they came back with from that was halfway through. It was a big struggle with the length of the dinner. Halfway through, I think the servers realized sometimes they would have to leave early, that they wanted it faster. Or they may have just mentioned it, and that kind of sped it up a lot for them on their last cruise. So this cruise, probably the first thing that they said to our server after, hello and stuff like that was, "Hey, we have 3 kids here. The faster food comes out, we appreciate that even better, just because we don't know when one meltdown will happen and stuff like that." So I think our main server, he was great. He was just phenomenal. He had some kids, and they were growing up now, but his name was Umesh, and he was just wonderful with them. He would kind of play around with them. He would cut up their food. And he was basically like, okay, today I can't guarantee it because, we're just meeting you and the kitchen's kind of crazy and stuff like that. But tomorrow, everything will come out fast, and we'll make it happen from there. The next tomorrow, we're going to have purees ready for like the infants if they're eating. What do you like? You want us? I think we were just like, surprise us, bring whatever you want and stuff like that. So he was like, don't worry about it. We're going to make everything perfect. We're going to try our best tonight. But our first night was in Marvel, which I think everyone was kind of tired. It was a little bit more crazy and cranky from the kids because they had traveled. We were just getting on the ship. The show's a little bit more intermittent. So like when the show was on the screens, they like loved it. And then there would be a bunch of downtime, and then the show would be on for like 5 minutes, and they liked that. We made it to about half of that show. But the food, in due respect, they still brought out the food very quickly. So we made it through the entire meal, which was kind of nice. After that, they enjoy, I think us adults enjoyed Coco. It was a little overstimulating, I think, for the 3-year-old and maybe the 1-year-old. Our 7-month-old enjoyed it as much as she had no issues with it. And then 1923, I think we just enjoyed that. That was a little bit more quiet, and probably the most kind of benign in that respect. So all those dinners went really well. We did our Ashante on day 4, which was Pirates Night. So we were kind of like okay with that. We were like, well, we'll probably go on a cruise again, and Pirate Night kind of happens a lot. So if we miss that menu, we'll probably survive. And from what it sounded like, it's not the greatest menu in the world. So for that, we enjoyed that. And our Palo Brunch, that was on day 2, but didn't interview any of those. Those 2 meals were really, really spectacular. I mean, all the sit-down meals were great. There were hits and misses for sure in terms of some appetizers. On our cruise, the tomato stuff was really good. So I got like an heirloom tomato salad, I think, at Marvel. That was phenomenal. Everything I got with tomatoes focused was good. And the lamb was particularly good. And we're people that like lamb and stuff. So the beef dishes, the steaks and stuff were good, but they tended to come out a little bit more overdone and well done, which wasn't bad. It was like a well done cut piece of meat. But I think preferred it slightly more like towards the medium rare, medium aspect. Desserts were amazing. I don't know if there was a dessert, like I was full, but I was like consuming more food than like enough to feed like, 3 nations or something. But by the time dessert came, I would still eat like 3 desserts and stuff. So all the desserts were a big hit, especially with the kids and stuff like that. The 3-year-old was a little bit more of a picky eater, but they started to figure things out a little bit there, in terms of like, they kind of were like, oh, he really likes those Mickey ice cream bars. So they would bring those out a little bit earlier and stuff.
Well, and I think it's really great that your sister thought to tell them on night one, hey, like this is what works for us. And then they could at least try to accommodate as best they could. And it sounds like they did a really good job of accommodating because it is, as I mentioned, it is a longer meal for the younger kids and that can be hard to sit through. But if they can pace the food faster, and yes, you may miss some of the show because you might be completely done before the show, but you've now avoided a meltdown. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, and they were very good about it. I think maybe once or twice, like if something happened, they would let us take our dessert to go and stuff like that. Or I would stay behind, gather everyone's desserts, and take them back and stuff like that. So they were really accommodating. I was going to say our favorite meal was probably still al shante. That meal was very pleasant. We did it when we left Tortola, I think it was. That was that sea day, if I'm remembering correctly. And our timing worked. It was like at 6 or 6:15 or something like that. So we not only caught like the boat kind of leaving and watching the island kind of go away, but we caught the sunset. The service was really nice. We ended up, I think Enzo. It was kind of funny. He made a joke about this. Enzo was our server, and he's the only Italian that, according to him, is there at the French restaurant. And Yuri was our server. Eurydice was our server on Palo, who's the only French person who's in the Italian restaurant. So he was like, oh, so he kind of had fun with that. But he was great. He was like very engaging, kind of cracking kind of fun jokes and stuff. The service was really good. The food was good. The dessert experience was phenomenal. But that was probably our favorite meal overall.
Nice. What about the shows on board? What did you think about the shows in the main theater?
They were the big 3 shows were really impressive. We had Seize the Adventure, which we watched at 2 p.m., which was really, really impressive. I was not expecting much from it, and I was just kind of like my jaw kind of dropped. It wasn't like compared to the other 2, it's not as good, but just compared to what I was expecting, it was a phenomenal show. And then Beauty and the Beast and Moana, we watched as well. So Seize the Adventure, I did the 2, and I watched it again actually in the evening because the timing worked out. Beauty and the Beach, we did the 2 p.m. show. Unfortunately, the evening was when we had a gin tasting. It ended up being my brother-in-law and myself. So we missed the evening show, but we watched it again on TV at like 10:15. And then Moana, I watched like half of the 2 p.m. show because the little one got a little bit fussier and my wife watched that, and I watched it in the evening. They were phenomenal. The stuff that they did was just amazing. Like I lived in New York for a while and I enjoy Broadway shows and stuff. And I would say those 2 were probably comparable, if not better than some of the Broadway shows I saw for sure. But I enjoyed it.
Did you take your kiddo to the show or?
So we took her to, we tried. I took her to Beauty and the Beast, and she seemed to enjoy that. So I say seemed to enjoy it. She fell asleep for the first 30 minutes or so of the first one, which worked out well. But once she woke up and she like kind of enjoyed watching it and was really quiet through it, and just kind of, I think the lights moving and all the action and stuff like that. So she enjoyed that. So we made it through that show without any issues. We took her to the 2 p.m. Moana showing, which was she didn't enjoy that as much. And it was probably more timing related. I'm sure she had not as much of an idea as what was going on, or maybe the lights were too flashy or something. But so that one, I think after she was a little bit fussy, so I took her for a walk. And basically, my wife ended up staying to watch it and I watched her during that time, and we switched off. I watched the evening show instead.
I think you mentioned you did some drink tastings on board. Which ones did you do?
We did. So I did so it was my birthday during the cruise, by coincidence as well. So on my birthday, my wife got me the reserve whiskey tasting. That was a lot of fun in Hooks Barbary. And then We did. My wife and I were initially going to do the gin tasting towards the end. It was, I think, night 6, but she felt a little unwell that evening. So I ended up going with my brother-in-law, and that one was a ton of fun. The host was great. I think, yeah, he was a lot of fun. And I think I mentioned that my wife wasn't feeling well, and he was like, "I should have come. Gin's going to make her feel a lot better. It cures everything and stuff." Right? So it was a lot of fun. And then my sister and brother-in-law, they did a chocolate and liqueur tasting. I think the winner amongst those 3 for all of us was, from description, was probably the gin tasting. That host was amazing. He was hilarious.
The bartender that sort of hosts it and teaches you whatever you're learning, right? That makes the experience really. It's not, I mean, you might have some really good drinks also, but I feel like whoever is doing the experience is really going to entertain you, teach you, right? And that can really make or break that experience. Soshin, I feel like you did so much on this cruise. I'm like, this is even I know it's a 7-night cruise, but that's a lot for a first timer. Like you're like me, you have to like run around and do stuff. Like, and it sounds like your wife is like Brian and has to kind of like chill. Like, do you feel like she had as much fun as you did? Like, I'm curious because obviously there's different personalities and different styles of vacationing there.
I think so. So we kind of we know each other. Like, obviously we've been married for, I mean, not like, but a couple years. But so we know each other pretty well, and we've kind of established like she enjoys kind of downtime to recharge. She's extroverted, but enjoys downtime to kind of recharge. Whereas I'm like, I get kind of bored and like antsy if I'm like sitting too much. So we kind of timed it. The stuff where we were like, some of the stuff we were like, okay, I know you want to do this, and I know I want to do this, so we're going to make that work together. Like those are the things we booked for. And some of the stuff she was like, I don't really care that much about doing this, or I'm going to go and relax and kind of sit in the veranda or something of that nature. So she ended up enjoying it a lot as well. And it kind of worked out in that respect. I think the only aspect, she was really, she got a little bit of an upset tummy on, I think, day 6. So she had to miss the gin tasting and stuff like that. So that was probably the only thing that she was kind of like a little bit bummed out about. But, you always need a reason to go back. So it kind of worked out from her perspective.
Exactly. You always need a reason to go back. She'll do the gin tasting the next time with you while baby is in the nursery or maybe the kids club by that, depending upon when you're able to fit in a gin tasting. Soshin, is there anything that we've missed? I feel like we've covered a ton in terms of activities, food, tastings, adult dining, shows. You did some trivias, you did some music trivias as well.
The one other thing that we had fun with was the Jack Jack Baby Dash. That was pretty fun. So we had a
did you
couple contenders.
participate? Oh my
We
God.
participated, and my the 1-year-old participated because he was not walking. He's not walking still yet, but so we participated. It was a lot of fun. It was probably the most crowded I ever saw the Grand Hall. From that perspective, our little one can't crawl, and she could kind of now she can roll, but she waited like 2 days to start really rolling, like effectively. So
Yeah.
she did like
well,
one
we're
roll.
recording this. You only got back like a week ago as we're recording this, right? And then babies really do change a lot in like that age. They can change week to week, day to day. But yeah, so she's kind of rolling, but not really.
She could do like one roll, like a half roll, and then kind of stopped on the ship. And now she can't stop rolling. But my nephew, he's a speedy one, and he's very food motivated. So at the end, like he won. He ended up winning everything, and he became like cruise famous. All the like little kids would be like, "Oh, congratulations!" Like
That's the winner. That's the Jack Jack champion.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What was his, so he obviously won like his heat and then he won the finals. So for anyone who hasn't seen Jack Jack's Diaper Dash, it's baby racing. It's baby racing, but only for crawling babies. And they're on a mat, and if there are enough babies in, then they do multiple heats, and then they do a finals from the winner of each heat. And then there's a prize for the winner. What was his prize?
He got a medal. Which I think it was Donald Duck. I can't remember exactly, but he got a medal, and all of the rest of us got like little bibs, which was a lot of fun. He won his heat. He was a little lucky in that his heat had like our 7-month-old, another 7-month-old, and like 7.5. Everybody else was very close at the beginning of the race, is what I'll say. But the finals were really close. That one came to a photo finish.
A photo finish. Just that baby won by a nose. I love it. I love it. Oh my God. That's so fun. And I love that your nephew was cruise famous. It's kind of like the people who are in Match Your Mate, but they're cruise famous for very different reasons than the baby who wins Jack Jack's Diaper Dash. I love that. Awesome. Well, I think we've reached that time, Brian.
Wait, hold on. I just want to know, like, the penultimate question here before my last question of the show, which will be after rapid fire, which is just, would you go back on Disney again?
Oh,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
hooked.
Oh, definitely. It was a lot of fun. I was honestly, again, I was worried that there wouldn't be enough things to do, and there were so many things to do, and I could have probably stayed on the ship a couple more days to do more. There's always just more things to do in terms of just relaxing on the veranda. But yeah, the short answer is yes. There's already plans made. There's already plans made, but I'll wait.
I have to say, when you said that your fear, before getting on, that your original fear about cruising was there wasn't enough to do, I was like, that's not like on Disney Cruise Line, that's not something to be worried about. On some of the other cruise lines, depending upon the ship and the itinerary, I would say that is an issue. And I would generally say that Royal has lots of great options for cruises for families, but not if you sail, for example, on some of their older ships. Then there's not quite as much to do, right? And same goes for some of the other cruise lines. Like the newer the ship, the more amenities and things that are, sort of spaces that are designed for things to do for families, I will say. I think the older the ship, the more it's just kind of like a casino and maybe a couple of shows and not as much sort of activities going on, except for maybe like they might have a little library you can borrow a book from. But that's not really what you're going to do with like a toddler, for example. So yeah, I think cruising is definitely become more family focused, and that's why we see the cruise lines building ships that have all these amenities. But on Disney Cruise Line, you never have to be worried about being bored. There is too much to do. You can't do everything that you possibly would want to do if you're somebody like Soshian and me who want to do all the things. Like if you're somebody who just wants to relax, like Brian or Soshian's wife, then you could just relax and sit on, the pool deck or on your veranda, and just enjoy the scenery. Yeah.
Well, I think we've reached that point in the show then, Sam, where I need to have you ask Soshian some arbitrary questions, apply some arbitrary rules, and perhaps even more, a dash of judgment. The round we know is rapid fire, so take it away.
All right. Okay, you knew this was coming. We talked about it pre-show. I'm going to ask you some Disney favorites and some Disney Cruise Line favorites. I'm going to say right now, your favorite ship is the Disney Treasure, so we'll set that aside. And we'll start with, who is your favorite Disney character? And Disney means anything and everything that Disney owns.
I'd probably have to say like either Ratatouille or Wally. Just very much enjoyed both those kind of like fun little characters Wally just adorable, and Ratatouille kind of just a classic exploring your dream, and the movies I enjoyed as well.
We love Remy ourselves and love Wally as well. All right, so are those also your favorite movies, would you say?
So in anticipation of this question on the ship, I kept asking my brother-in-law, my sister, and what's my favorite movie? And they kept going, it's obviously Pocahontas. Because as a kid, it is Pocahontas. As a kid, we watched, we had VHSs and such, and we would it took like 10 minutes to rewind the thing, but we would watch the movie like on loop, my sister and I, and that song. And our room was actually Pocahontas themed too. So that kind of thing as well. But I'd say Pocahontas actually, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I think that's awesome. All right, what's your favorite Disney song? Is it Just Around the River Bend?
Okay, so it should be. I went with what I probably actually listened to the most on loop on Spotify at this time, and it's from Tokyo Disney. It's called BAYMAX, Baymax. They have a little ride. It's themed to the alien swirling saucers, except infinitely better and has an extremely long line. But they play different songs and people gather around and it's super energetic. So probably that one. It kind of goes like BAYMAX, Baymax, Usimaes, the best, and so forth. It's very catchy on Spotify.
I actually have you can't see it because it's all the way up the top. I have from Tokyo. Now, we've not been to Tokyo. Brian ordered this for me online. I have the popcorn bucket that is the Baymax in that ride vehicle. And so it was made years ago. So I know exactly what ride you're talking about. And it's exactly the same as Alien Swirling Saucers. It's also the Mater's ride at California Adventure. It's that, sort of kind of spinny ride, but not completely spinny. Anyway, I have that ride popcorn bucket. So I love that. I don't know the song though, but now I'm gonna look it up on. I'm gonna
Oh,
look
there's
it
a
up
whole
on Spotify.
song track. There's like 6 songs. It's phenomenal. Very easy listening. Very upbeat is what I'll say.
I love it. All right, we're gonna move over to Disney Cruise Line. You've got 3 shows to choose from. It sounds like you enjoyed all of them. I mean, you saw all of them twice or 1.5 times if you count Moana having to leave. Yeah, so Seize the Adventure, Beauty and the Beast, Moana, which one was the best?
Oh, so my personal opinion was Beauty and the Beast. I like Moana as well, but I think the story and the nostalgia, having grown up watching Beauty and the Beast, is the and just the both Moana and Beauty and the Beast had really good puppetry and really good lighting and stuff. But probably Beauty and the Beast, and also that was the one that came first. So See the Adventure was good, but then watching Beauty and the Beast, and then the next day Moana, you're kind of going from 0 to like 9, and then maybe from 9 to like 9 point something, right? So I'd say Beauty and the Beast.
Love that. Love that. All right. Rotational dining. Which one was your favorite? You, of course, again, 3 to choose from: 1923, Worlds of Marvel, and Plaza de Coco.
Probably from the overall perspective, 1923. I think one of the first night menu we actually enjoyed, but I enjoyed the vibe a lot. The second night menu was actually, ironically, probably our least favorite, but just the vibe of the restaurant and just all the artwork and stuff like that. It was also a little quieter, so it kind of worked a little bit with the kids. The show at Coco was phenomenal. I think the food. I think if you're wanting like Mexican food that night, then it's going to be phenomenal. But if you're in the mood for something else, I mean, there's other options as well, but the options were a little bit more limited at that.
Yeah, excellent point. All right. Speaking of food, favorite sweet item and a favorite savory item on board your cruise. It can be from specialty dining, it could be from the pool deck, it could be from main dining, wherever. I mean, it could be Mickey's popcorn. It doesn't matter. But let's start with a sweet item because I like the savories and we save the best for last.
I think probably we enjoyed the panna cotta at Palo Brunch, and then the churro waffles were also really.
Yeah. Got to give a special shout out to the churro waffles. All right. What about a savory food?
Probably, I think actually my wife and I both share the cheese plates at Ashante, and the tomato was a close second. There's
Ah,
like tomato like 7 ways or something like that. But the
yes, like
cheeses were really fun.
that tomato water, right? So
Oh,
good.
it was surprised. Yeah, and it was like 3 ingredients. The guy kind of had us guess it, and I was like, oh wow, that's fair. It was simple but good.
Yeah. For those who don't know, if you haven't eaten it, Enchante or Remy, not all the time, but it seems like more often than not, one of the courses is this like amazing tomato course that's like a tomato pie, tomato water, something else that you dip in some kind of like tomato, kind of a ketchup. Anyway, it's like tomato like 5 different ways. And it sounds weird, but it's incredible. It's like one of the best things I've ever eaten in my entire life. Like, no joke. All right, let's talk favorite activity. What was the favorite like thing that you would want to do more than once? Not like something you is like a one and done.
Probably. Honestly, I enjoyed going to both the pub and the like different place. The pub to watch, like I was there for the Knicks game, Game 4, and some of the World Cup. So that was just very energetic and stuff. That was a lot of fun. And then listening to the music, probably. I enjoyed the Doublooners band a lot, as well as the pianist in Scat Cat. Just those vibes.
Awesome. All right, well, I already asked you your favorite ship, of course, that's the Treasure. I've got to ask you your bucket list cruise. If you could go anywhere in the world on a Disney Cruise Line ship, and of course, it's not the Eastern Caribbean because you've already been there, someplace maybe you haven't been, where would you go?
Probably Japan. So we're looking forward to the ship when it comes out as well. We like going to Japan. We like going to Disney stuff. We now like cruising. Kind of fits all 3.
Perfect. I love it. Checking all those boxes is the way to go. Soshin, A plus plus. I love all your answers. Remy, Wally, Beauty and the Beast. I mean, I just passive flying colors, which means you can come back anytime.
Which means I probably won't do as well if I ever do come back to A plus plus. Hard to beat.
True. You can't really beat that. Yeah, you can't get better than perfection.
Well, I would love to know what's next. So what have you got planned?
So we do have, when we were at the parks, there was like I think discount if you booked within a couple of days from being at the park. And this was before our cruise actually. So it was probably a little bit ambitious, but we booked for my wife's spring break in April of next year, or April coming up. We booked the Dream out of Fort Lauderdale to San Juan. And it goes to both islands. So that was one of the appeals. And I enjoy going to Puerto Rico. So I think it lands, I forget, like on a Thursday. It's like, I think it's a 4-nighter. So it lands a little early. And then we're going to stay in Puerto Rico for a couple of days and enjoy that.
Oh, fabulous. I realized I didn't even ask you about the ports because we spent so much time talking about the ship experience, but did you love Castaway? Just tell me
Castaway was our favorite port by far. Yeah. It was a hot day, but it was a ton of fun. Very relaxing. A lot of chairs available for us. A lot of the food was fun. The characters were kind of fun. I did the 5K. Castaway was phenomenal. That was by far my favorite port. The others, we spent like 5 minutes. We went out and came back. So
yeah. Well, and now you'll get to experience, as you mentioned, look out and do the compare contrast with Castaway. They're both amazing. You'll see they're different, but you're both incredible in their own right. Well, Soshian, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're welcome to come back. It's wonderful that you have your next cruise booked. Did you also book a placeholder on board?
We did. So that one is pending.
that one's TBD.
We're just trying to coordinate again for another family cruise. This Dream one is just our family, but we're trying to coordinate them.
Awesome. Well, you'll have to come back to tell us what you think of the Disney Dream. With that, I'll just say thanks for coming on and sharing your first time on Disney Cruise Line with us.
Thank you again. Just the podcast has been really helpful in getting me excited for it. And I look forward to hearing more about other people's cruises as well. Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing what you guys do.
All right, that's our show for tonight, but thank you so much for listening. If you're not subscribed yet, please fix that right now. Head over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, hit that subscribe button. We're dropping at least 2 episodes a week. Plus, we're live each and every week over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DCLDuo. Come hang out with us for a live. It's a blast. You can ask your questions in the chat and really join the conversation with us and our guests. If you're enjoying our show, one of the easiest ways to support the show, head over to Apple Podcasts, hit those 5 stars, and while you're at it, leave us a written review with your 5-star review, and we will read it on the air at the top of one of our main episodes. If you're listening to us on another platform, Spotify, YouTube, Castos, there's so many third-party podcast apps and players out there. Whatever form of review or rating they have, give it all to us. Show the show some love. It keeps us going, keeps us putting out great content week to week. Are you ready to set sail? Book your next Disney Cruise Line vacation with our show sponsor, We Do Travel Right, the crew that handles the planning so you can focus on relaxing. Head to wedotravelright.com/DCLDuo today to get started, or you can reach out to them directly. Just let them know the DCL Duo sent you. Subscribe today to DCL Magazine. They put out a great product. Head over there. It's your go-to guide for DCL tips and tricks. Just browse to DCL-magazine.com. That's DCL-magazine.com and use code DCL Duo, all caps DCL Duo today for 10% off everything in the WDW Magazine store. And if you want to directly support the show, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/DCL Duo. That's patreon.com/DCL Duo. Every pledge helps us keep bringing you great DCL content every week. Want more from us? Just head over to DCLDuo.com where you will find links to our full episode catalog, our vlog, our Etsy store, our Patreon, our Substack newsletter, and our show sponsors all in one place. Or you can email us at info@dclduo.com or leave us a voicemail at 402-413-5590. That's 402-413-5590. The views expressed in this podcast are our own and do not reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company, Disney Cruise Line, or any other travel provider discussed or mentioned. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time for another fabulous adventure with the DCL Duo. Good night.